No, but why do I just want to film with the hood on? We are going for casual. We're going for cozy. We're going for, I just hit record and I really hope I can just do this in one take. So I already posted my 5-star reads of 2024, but today's video, it's for the honorable mentions. It's for all the books that I got anywhere from 4 to 4.75 that deserve that recognition and shout out. I want to go through all the books that I physically have first, and then we'll jump into the ones that I have to just put up a picture of the cover. So first up is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This was such a beautiful story. I would say it is literary fiction with a subplot of mystery. You are following our main character, Tova, who is a older woman, recently widowed, and she kind of just wants something to fill her time. So she takes up this nighttime cleaning position at the local aquarium. And I love the writing of this, I think, the most. That's what stuck out to me, because you are getting these POVs of Tova, but you're also getting the POV of the octopus in the aquarium, and a third POV that kind of helps with the subplot of mystery going on. I just really loved how getting a glimpse into the octopus mindset, this very remarkably bright creature, like, it was just so unique, and I really loved this like unspoken friendship that they were forming. I loved it. Next up we have The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. I only gave this book 4 to 4.25, I think, but I think it would be higher upon a reread, because I went into this thinking, oh, this is kind of a quirky rom-com. This is so much more. I wish everyone knew going into this that it is about living your life. You are following our main character, Defy, and like literally, guys, prologue, off the pit, like she dies in the beginning. And the whole point is that she dies. She goes to this afterlife and she's given a second opportunity to go find like the love of her life that she meets in like the afterlife waiting room, and her like afterlife caretaker, in a way, manager, whatever, is like, oh, sir, you're not supposed to be here, like kicks him back to the real world. And she's like, that was the love of my life. And so her little manager girlie is like, oh, we'll send you back for 10 days, go find him. And it's this whole mission of just our main character realizing she was not living her life like she wanted, and like not taking advantage of all the beautiful parts of life and all the amazing like relationships and adventures that you can go on. So I feel like if you understood that is the message, is just to live your life, and then yeah, there's this like subplot of romance going on, you would enjoy this so much, and I think you have the potential of giving it 5 stars. Next up is A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. This is another one that I think if I understood the assignment before getting into it, it could have gotten a higher rating. You're following our main female character that is suddenly in the town of her like favorite book series. That's it. That's all you need to know. I didn't understand at that point of reading this that Ashley Poston always has this like paranormal element to it. It is a very fluffy Twilight Zone. You know what I mean? I love it. Now that I understood, like by the end, like I was obsessed. But for the first half, I was like, what in the world am I reading? But once I understood the assignment, I enjoyed it so much more. And I think upon a reread, I would give it a higher rating. The last romance I have physically is The Art of Catching Feelings. If you were with me on like whatever weekly vlog that I read this, I read it in one sitting. I could not put this down. I don't know what Alicia Thompson put in this book or what mood I was in, because like a baseball romance is not my thing. It was. Like if you just understand the tropes in it and you know that you like it or you don't, like if you like those tropes or you're fine with it going in, like you're gonna be fine, because the whole premise is you have a heckler and a baseball player. She heckles him, but the girl is just like a book girly. Like she was kind of just down on life, making these silly little heckles just to kind of like feel something as she's at this baseball game with her friend. And he hears her, and then like you see that like he was clearly impacted by it, even though it was like the silliest little thing. So she's like feels terrible because she's like, I don't even watch baseball. And so she ends up DMing him, apologizing, but she forgets to tell him that like she's the heckler. Is kind of like, I'm sorry for what you're going through kind of thing, or like, I'm sorry that happened to you. Like, point is, she didn't identify herself as the heckler. So they have this like online like messaging back and forth, but they are now also with like real life events together. Like not together, like, you know what I mean? Like they're having interactions because they kind of want to smooth over the publicity that happened from it. And so you have that kind of like hidden identity kind of thing. And so if you like that trope or you don't. I ate this up. Getting into fantasy, because we know that I was just in my fantasy era in 2024. I just read this. It's The Night Hunt by Alexandra Christo. This is the same author as To Kill a Kingdom and Princess of Souls. Both of those are fairy tale retellings. I don't believe this one's a fairy tale retelling, but if it is, please let me know. But you are following Atia. Atia is a monster. I guess like I don't really think that we know what she is. She's the last of her kind, but she does something to make the gods very unhappy. Now, here comes Silas. He's a herald carrying messages and ferrying the dead as punishment for a past he can't remember. He thinks that Atia, her curse that she's now gotten from the gods, he thinks they can work together to undo her curse and kind of undo whatever curse he has for not remembering his past. Like, he's just craving humanity again, and so he thinks they can work together to undo their curses. This was just a great standalone fantasy. It's YA. It's so cute. The little tiny subplot of romance that's like the YA romance. Precious. Alexandra Christo, I don't know if I even said that correctly. She cannot miss. Like, I just know what I'm getting, and I feel like I always have a great time with her work. Okay, like, theoretically, it would be One Dark Window and then Two Twisted Crowns. This duology. It did not get 5 stars, but it got so close. I don't own the first book. Let's not talk about it. But I loved it so much. It's such a unique magic system. They have these cards that have different powers. And what I really like about this is it isn't about someone being born with or without powers. It's just whoever possesses these cards have those magical abilities. Now, obviously, magic always comes with a price. There's certain cards that are kind of better than others, you know, maybe have less of a price than others, but you are following this group of people that have an adventure to go on to kind of get all of the deck. I think there's like 12 different cards, and they need one of each to kind of undo this big curse mist going on. Another duology, but I've only read the first book, so I can only recommend this. Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I am so glad that I finally read this. It's been on my shelf forever. I think it was my November book club pick, or maybe October. I really enjoyed it. This was just such a fun time. I mean, it's YA, but it's like a heist, which I love a good heist. So I'm very curious about the second book, though, and like rounding out this duology. I know there's more in this universe, so I'm excited to just read more, because as much as like it's high stakes, it's also not like heart pounding where I'm just feeling anxiety about everything that's going to happen. I feel like adult fantasy can make me feel that way. This was just a fun story. So you have 6 misfits that need therapy, but all have hidden talents that are going to help our main character, Kaz, reach his goal of this heist to get the item that they need. Yay! Next up is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This was such a fun read for me and such a surprise for me because this book is thick, but I read it in 2 days. I could not put it down. This is the first book in the series, so it is a lot of world building in the beginning, and I would suggest that if you find yourself like confused and you're like, I just don't really grasp everything or fully understand everything, don't read it to understand all the little things about the world. Read it to get the main plot and like the main vibes of this world. You can always reread it. I plan to do at least 2 rereads is my goal before the second book comes out in October of 2025. So you are following Rave, who is an assassin for the rebellion group, and then you have Khan. I hope I'm saying his name right. But he took the head of the king and donned his melted crown. Like, he ends up capturing her. It happens to the best of us, right? And so like it's that type of world, that type of fantasy, not world, that type of plot, that type of fantasy plot, you know, you have your main guy, he captures the assassin woman, you know, like that's what you need to know about it. Next up is A Dawn of Onyx. This is the first book in the Sacred Stones trilogy by Kate Golden. I've read the first two. I really enjoyed the first two. I'm looking forward to finishing out this trilogy. You are following Arwen, who has these rare magical abilities to heal people, and she is kind of like low class. And then she ends up in a position where she's taken by the Onyx King, you know, the vicious Onyx King, and kind of two sides of a war going on. So he's on the other side. So she kind of just hears all these horror stories, right? So situation happens, she's taken by him, and now she's trying to figure out, like, you know, like what is she supposed to do? And she's obviously going to learn about the other side of like the war, and then kind of hear, like, you know how it is, like when you kind of grow up and she's constantly hearing all the bad of the Onyx Kingdom, and then she goes there and she's like, now wait a minute. That's the gist of this trilogy. I cannot believe that I read this trilogy in the beginning of January. Like, that baffles me. Absolutely baffles me. I love the Defy the Night trilogy by Bridget Kimmerer with my entire being. This was everything. Okay, so you have Tessa, who is an outlaw that is using everything she has, every knowledge she has, to create and distribute this elixir that is helping with the current like plague going on in the village. And then you have Prince Korik, who serves as the king's justice. If you've read Powerless, think of Kai. Like, he's just someone that is known to be evil, and he just kills people, like, big bad wolf, you know, but like secretly, if you just get to know him, he's like kind of a nice guy. Well, Tessa and Prince Korik, it says, when an act of unspeakable cruelty brings Tessa and Korik face to face. So, yeah, okay. You have the outlaw and the prince that kind of have to figure out, are we going to work together to solve these issues, or are we just going to kill each other? Like, what's it going to be, babes? What's it going to be? Well, we have a trilogy, so I doubt they kill each other, you know. But I really loved all of our side characters. I love the found family element of this, and I just loved this world. I found it so bingeable. I think Bridget Kimmerer's writing overall, so bingeable. Last one I have physically to talk about is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I was introduced to Marissa Meyer by reading the Renegades. I don't think it's a trilogy because I think there's 4 books. No, maybe it is a trilogy. I just really loved her writing and her storytelling. And so I saw this as a standalone. I was like, well, I have to pick it up. And it is a Queen of Hearts retelling. It's like the Queen of Hearts origin story, which I had just never thought about. Like, you think about like Alice from Alice in Wonderland, but like the Queen of Hearts origin story, I would reread this. This, I feel in my bones. Like, I feel it in my bones. Yeah. You have Kath, who's our main female character, and then you have Jest. And Jest is like the court's jokester, right? So, at the risk of offending the king and infuriating her parents, she and Jest enter into a secret relationship. Yeah. So, this origin story was just everything to me. Okay, I need my phone for this one because it's just a list that I then have to be like, here's a cover. So the first one is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I believe this is my first book by her, and this is where I was introduced to her, yes, her writing, but also the fact that she always puts a bit of real life into her romances. She always has those like real life elements that's like, hey, like this is really what happens. I feel like the unrealistic rom-coms, like they have their place, but having this makes me feel like, you know what? Like that is a life that I could like be in and a romance that I could find, because like I battle with that. Or yeah, this is a situation I've been in. Instead of those like completely unrealistic, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna like walk down the grocery store aisle and bump into the love of my life. While it could happen, like, no, you know, like she gives you a bit more. And so with Yours Truly, you are following our 2 main characters where they both work in a hospital, and our main male character, as a doctor, has just been transferred to this hospital. Now, him and our main female character have a bad, like, first interaction, but he has social anxiety, okay? And so he ends up writing her a letter to apologize and kind of just, like, says that. And so then she responds well with understanding that, and, like, they have this writing, like, correspondence back and forth and kind of just goes from there. It was such a beautiful, cute story. Next up is 19 Steps by Millie Bobby Brown. She also had like a ghost author for this book, but this story is based on like real life events from like I believe her grandma, like just her family story. This was such a surprising read for me. It's like historical fiction romance. It was absolutely stunning. It is following a woman in, was it World War II, and she's in London, but she's like a kid, and they're seeing her kind of like age over these like I believe like 5 years into kind of a young adult, and you're seeing this like love story, and you're trying to just figure out like what's going on with her family and like the heartbreak of war and like loss and friendships and how those evolved as like different things happen that are just so heartbreaking. You have to learn to cope with that. You have to learn to deal with that, and like your relationships in life change because of those experiences. It was just such a nice story of life while also having that bit of romance in there of like, is it worth going after, you know, the person that like makes you feel something, or like the guy that's gonna be safe when you're like do I just need someone safe? Like, I don't know. I just really loved everything about this. And then I have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, a cozy fantasy. I think this was my first cozy fantasy I read that's like truly targeted as that. This was such a cute, like historical romance, but like obviously the ounce of fantasy in there, but it is like Bridgerton with fantasy. That's how I would describe it. Not like intense fantasy, but like it's there, and I adored it. Like, that's what you need to know. Renegades by Marissa Myers. That entire series was just so fun. It is superheroes, but like kids, and you're following our main female character who feels wronged. The Renegades are the superhero group that she believes should have been there at the time that she needed them, and they weren't. And so she kind of goes to the dark side, and now she's infiltrating the Renegades to like take them down from within. But obviously she then gets to like meet some of the people in the Renegades, and she gets to see kind of like from the inside, like they're not all evil. Like, such a fun story. I listened to the audiobooks and I flew through them. I highly recommend the audiobooks. Next up is A Tempest of Tea by Hasfa Faisal. This is my first book by this author. This was I think Six of Crows with vampires. Like, it is also a heist. It's also a group of like misfits, but there's also vampires. So fun, so fun. This was my first book by her, and so I just read We Hunt the Flames. Very different. And so I will say that if you've read her past work and like, I don't know, struggled through it at all, like, I highly recommend this because A Tempest of Tea was so easy for me to just read, like just jump in and read, and I really look forward to the next book. Next up is 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This was my first book by this author, and this is where I didn't fully understand that every book had a paranormal element, because for me, this paranormal element was just so like easy to get, and it is our main female character that has her aunt pass away, that's like basically a mom to her, like best friends. They traveled every year together. They're always like hanging out and creating these memories. Her aunt passes away and gives her apartment to her. Now, her aunt always gave her these stories of like, no, like this apartment's special, this apartment is magical, and our main female character is like oh, okay, no, like it time travels, like 7-year difference. Yeah. So when all of a sudden she walks into her apartment and another man is there, excuse me, from 7 years in the past? Yeah, she has to navigate him sometimes being there, because she's like, oh no, you can stay, like my aunt from 7 years ago I guess said you could stay for the week. Yeah, no problem. But then she'll like come back the next day, enter the apartment, and he's not there because now she's in like present time. So it was such a unique story and so beautiful. When I realized, I think it was like around the 80 to 90% mark, like something was said that made me freak out and reread the first chapter. Like I was like, what? Wait. Now I know. Because like the first chapter, it'd be like, if you know, you know, and if you don't, well, it's because you haven't read the book yet. I freaked out. Yeah, no, that was so amazing. Next up is Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the first time I read this author's writing, and I loved it. I own Kingdom of the Wicked, but I haven't read that trilogy, and from what I understand, it is YA, but as each book came out, it seemed to be more and more adult. But Throne of the Fallen, we're already there. It is 110% adult. I mean, Prince of Sin, are you kidding? We're following Prince Envy in the first book. I loved it. Basically, each of the princes have something in their kingdom that is just not right. And so they have to figure out kind of what they can do to like fix and heal whatever sickness, ailment is going on in their kingdom and in their village and for their people. And so I think he is on like a quest, a hunt of something, like a scavenger hunt in a way. And that's where he runs into our main female character, as she's an artist and like he needs an art print or a commission, something. But that's kind of then them going on this journey. That was just such a fun time. I've now read Throne of Secrets. I don't know. Maybe I just put series on here. I don't know. But, oh, maybe I gave that one 5 stars. So I already talked about it. I can't remember. It's the second book, and it's about Prince Gluttony. I liked it more than Throne of the Fallen. I can tell you that much. But I also gave Throne of the Fallen, I think, like 4.5 stars. So I just recommend both books that are out. I then read The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. Oh my gosh. So this is my second book by her. Now I've understood the assignment. I've understood, oh, paranormal is always there. I think I gave this 4.5, 4.75. I loved it. Our main female character, she can see ghosts. Like, it happens, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think it like runs in her family or whatever. So she returns home to her hometown that like she doesn't want to be there, but I think there's a family emergency. I can't exactly remember what happened nor if it's revealed in the back, but she has to go back home and she's dealing with that. But there is this guy that she literally just saw the night before having to go home. He's a ghost in her hometown. And she's like, I just saw you alive and well. We just made out in the alley. Why are you here? And so there's just kind of this mystery going on with that. And like, he's like, wait, you can see me? And like, oh, it was so fun. It was just so fun. I cannot believe I don't own this book. I will, mark my words. To Kill a Shadow by Catherine Quinn. This was the first time that I just browsed through my library and picked a book because it just sounded interesting. And I loved it so much. The found family in it, the romance, even better. Like, wow, it is a group of young adults that have to go on this quest to also find whatever key thing is going to lift the curse on the town, if I'm remembering correctly, which I'm like 90% sure I am. And so you have like our main male and female characters, kind of a forbidden romance. Like, there's no way that should be happening. It should be a thing, but like it is, because feelings are feelings, and like, sorry, you can't control who you love. And so I loved it. But I think the found family is so big. In the second book, it just came out. I haven't read it yet. Why haven't I read it? No, that's a great question. But I love this, and I don't know why more people aren't talking about it. The YA fantasy, the romance, like, it was so good. Like, if you love YA fantasy romance, you will love this book. I guarantee it. Then I have The North Wind by Alexandra Warwick. This was a book club pick, I think, for one of my local barns that my friends work at. And so they were like, okay, it's our book club pick. And so I ended up reading it, and I read it in one sitting. And I don't know if that helped my experience. I was doing it for readathon, but like, I really enjoyed it. Like, I mean, I was sat through the whole thing, but I feel like I would have liked it even without the 24-hour readathon. But I nonetheless loved it. I believe we're getting 4 books to have like the north, south, east, west, all of that, because The West Wind just came out. And I believe these are being re-released from like indie to trad. I'm not entirely sure, but I know that I think all the books are technically out already, but they're like re-releasing at the moment because The West Wind just came out, but it came out like 4 months or 3 months after The North Wind. And I'm like, no way did you just write it that quick, you know? Nonetheless, I love the first book. I haven't read the second yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's giving Prince of Sins, right? Like, Princes of Sins is like all the brothers get kind of their own book. Similar vibe. You have the North one that's a brother. I mean, it's your classic fantasy romance. Oh, this is adult though. I mean, so is Princes of Sin, but like, that's my point, is like, this is definitely adult fantasy romance. I loved it. I loved it. It's your classic, like, a king, or, you know, whoever's ruling his kingdom, and then you have this female that's coming in and like ruining lives, like, classic. Okay, just a couple left. I have None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marney. This is for the lovers of the naturals, but you maybe don't like all the people that you had to follow, and it's like, oh wow, we had 5 people going on with the naturals. This, you just have 2, but it's the same concept. They, for their own reasons, are being kind of recruited within the FBI to help them understand like teenage serial killers. But those 2 have like experiences or pasts of their own that kind of make them like, I wouldn't say qualified, but like they can understand this a bit better. And so yeah, the FBI has already caught various teenage serial killers, and so they believe that having these other kind of teenagers, young adults, go in and question them to understand like, why did you do what you did? They're gonna get more than like, you know, the 45-year-old male going in like, so why'd you kill those people? Like, they want to understand the mindset so they can understand profiling of looking for future killers. Really cool. Obviously there's gonna be, you know, like a current case going on that's gonna, you know, require their attention, or they're gonna get themselves involved in it. Like, it's always about, oh no, like cold cases, or it's like, no, like we're just looking at the past stuff, no current cases. Never happens. It's a trilogy. The first 2 books are out, the 3rd one's coming. I loved both books. The final one I have to talk about is The Temptation of Magic by Megan Scott. This is something I read towards the end of the year, and I loved it. I am currently reading Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness? Something like that, but it is the 2nd book to A Discovery of Witches. And when I saw The Temptation of Magic, it was described as like for fans of A Discovery of Witches, and I was like, wait, like I liked that first book, and I'm like currently, well at that time I guess I wasn't reading, but I was like, but I want to pick up the 2nd book soon. The Temptation of Magic is for the people that loved A Discovery of Witches but want something a bit less dense. The world building is not as like extreme, there's not just like as much, I wouldn't say fluff, because I don't know how to describe, but like, yeah, dense. Like someone wrote that and I was like, no, that's so true. Like, it's just dense. There's a lot of words in the A Discovery of Witches trilogy, but The Temptation of Magic gives you all the same feelings and vibes, but it was like a bit quicker to read. 10 out of 10. Well, those are all of my honorable mentions of 2024. Please let me know if you've read any of them. Like, what did you think? Did you like them? Did you not? I'm just very excited for the new year to continue some of these series, to be introduced to new books, have new releases. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be such a great reading year. Well, with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.